We've got the whole crew together as we cover Ohio State with our instant analysis from Ohio State.
There's something that doesn't feel right.
Unbelievable effort from him today. Is E.J. Liddell going to crack the first team All-Big Ten?
I think he can be the guy. I'm not trying to start a quarterback controversy.
He seems to have the durability. He certainly has the toughness. Is the question on a lot of people's minds here. Welcome to Buckeye Breakdown.
Well, happy Saturday afternoon, everybody, and welcome to Columbus. We're at Ohio Stadium for Senior Day. It's the final home game of the regular season, and most importantly, it's the final tune-up before the game 1 week from today up in Ann Arbor. Brendan Gulick, Anthony Moeglin with you. Buckeyes and the Golden Gophers getting ready to square off today. And Anthony, I don't know if there's ever been a more overlooked game by a fan base in Ohio State history than what we've got here today. But the reality is Minnesota at least has one good win on its resume this year, even if it was a game where you could argue Iowa coulda, woulda, shoulda won the game. They beat the team that looks like they may win the West, and the Buckeyes need to make sure that they are focused when they come out here today.
And Brendan, I would also add, it's also being overlooked just by everybody. It was the lead story. One of the stories on game day this morning was not even Ohio State versus Minnesota or Michigan versus Maryland. It was Ohio State versus Michigan next week. So everyone's kind of looking past it. It's so important for Ohio State to just be locked in today, because guess what? If today goes awry, next week means nothing. So, and I have no reason to believe that Ohio State would be looking forward to it, especially after last week's performance against Michigan State. But this will be a fun one today.
And that's maybe where it's challenging to talk about a game like this. Mm-hmm. The Buckeyes are 4 touchdown favorites. They should kill Minnesota today. I frankly kind of expect this game to look quite a bit like it did last week when the Buckeyes in the first half absolutely annihilated Michigan State and then basically put it on cruise control and got a lot of their starters out of the game in the second half. College football is fun because anything can happen, and every single week wild stuff that you don't anticipate actually happens. So you cannot take any opportunity for granted. But I can understand why everybody in the fan base here right now, I mean, walking from the parking lot over to the stadium, there is a pretty relaxed, let's have some fun. Hey, it's a beautiful mid-November day kind of atmosphere. Not a whole lot of people worried about today. And it's a weird thing to feel that way because you got to respect your opponent. You got to go out and execute. And the good news is right now, Ohio State offensively looks like they're about as healthy as they've been here these last couple weeks. They've basically been as healthy as they've been at any point this year. And so the offense needs to try to capitalize on that and go out and play well, because you got to take some momentum with you to next week.
You need to. And I was really encouraged last week with just how they started the game against Michigan State. And I have every reason to believe that that's how they're going to approach this game this afternoon, because, if the offense just gets out quickly, that takes, either whoever's out on the field first, whether if it's the defense, a 3-and-out's perfect, or if it's the offense, a nice sustained drive right down the field. And then it's like, all right, here we go. We look good, feel good. And then you just take care of business the rest of the way. You obviously are rooting for no injuries. And at this point in the year, we talked earlier in the year, and I would always say, like, hey, you're not going against your opponent. You're going against, you have your own certain internal goals, and you're not playing the scoreboard in a game like this. But like where you're at in the season, it's get out healthy and get out with a win, because we know where this team is. We know what they are, and they just need to get through this one healthy and come out with more points than Minnesota, no matter how it looks this afternoon.
So the game day status report was released a little bit earlier today than normal, so we can share with you live here a couple hours before kick that Tommy Eichenberg and Devin Brown are both questionable today. Obviously, don't anticipate that you'd see a ton of Devin, but if he is able to go, maybe he's the second quarterback if Kyle gets pulled at some point in the second half. And again, that's best case scenario, right? Otherwise, you want your quarterback out there all the time. But Eichenberg is questionable today, continues to be week to week with a shoulder injury. The Buckeyes are going to be without 2 starters defensively today, but they are different from last week. Lathan Ransom out and will likely miss next week as well. Ryan Day would not rule out Lathan returning for potentially in the college football playoff if the Buckeyes can qualify for that. The maybe more surprising addition to the status report is that Mike Hall is out today. Now, Mike Hall only played a handful of snaps last week. Kind of an unknown with what he's dealing with. Hopefully he's okay. You sure want Mike Hall on the field in Ann Arbor a week from today. The good news, Josh Proctor, who missed last week's game after he got shaken up on that pick six interception at Rutgers 2 weeks ago, Josh Proctor is back. So you're still missing 2 starters on defense in Lathan Ransom and in one other starter, but this week it's Mike Hall out instead of Josh Proctor.
Yeah, you don't love either of those, especially Mike Hall. With what Michigan's going to bring to the table next week, you're going to need to be stout, especially in that defensive line and in that interior. But hey, you're hoping, fingers crossed, that it's something that he can get over, and maybe just taking this week as a precaution. You're hoping that's the case, because he'll be important in next week and weeks to come for the Buckeyes.
So you try to sit here and think to yourself, okay, how can Minnesota do something a little different? How can they be a little creative? What do they have that makes a Golden Gophers fan think, all right, hey, we got a shot. Like, this could really happen. First of all, you have a chance because you're here, so give it your all. But if you're a 4-touchdown underdog on the road, you're going to have to do something pretty spectacular to pull off an upset. One area that catches my attention with Minnesota is, frankly, a pretty high success rate on 4th downs. When they've chosen to go for it this year, they're 12 for 14. They're the best in the country, both in terms of number of conversions and highest percentage. They've converted a couple of 4th and short scenarios when they've played, big Power 5 teams before. I would imagine that PJ Fleck's going to come out here and coach this game not to lose. Going to coach this game to win, not coach this game not to lose. So, I wouldn't be surprised at all if Minnesota tries to get aggressive in some spots. Maybe that's an area where they might have a little bit of an edge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you're going to see from Minnesota, if you're a Minnesota fan, like, you want this team to come out and just stay attached. If you can make this game into your first goal is to get through the first quarter and it not be a blowout, and then get through the second quarter and you're within a score or two. And then when you get to the second half, if that's the case, then you're just like, hey, let's go do it. And let's just go figure it out. You want to stay ahead of the sticks. Don't turn it over, right? You want to stay, in advantageous situations where you can convert on 3rd down and you can get it into 4th and manageable where you can go for it. It's one where you just roll the ball out there and say, hey, boys, hey, we're just going to go for it today. We got nothing to lose. And why not try and knock off one of the best teams in the country? I think from PJ Fleck, you'll see an aggressive afternoon from a play calling perspective.
I don't know that I would call it a key to the game, but maybe the area that I am most interested in watching today are Ohio State's special teams. You feel like you've seen enough from the offense the last few weeks in particular. They're starting to click. They played their best game last week. Defensively, you got a huge body of work. Ohio State, number 1 pass efficiency defense in the country, number 2 in scoring, number 4 in total defense. These guys are legit. You know what you've got in those 2 areas. Last year, against Michigan and against Georgia, a couple of special teams mistakes. And throughout this season, too many instances where the special teams have tripped on themselves. So I am interested today, especially after Parker Fleming spoke with the media this week for about 10 minutes. I am interested to see if that group can perform well, frankly, under a magnifying glass, because everybody's paying attention to whether or not they can clean things up. It hasn't cost them yet. Ohio State's been the better team when they've played every week. But ultimately, in big games, man, you can't make mistakes on special teams and expect to win. And I think Ohio State needs to be really locked in there today.
Yeah, when teams are evenly matched, special teams oftentimes are the difference. It's a blocked punt, or it's a bad punt, a shank, or it's a missed field goal, or some kind of bad thing that happened in the really good teams. Turn those around and use special teams to their advantage. So love to see it be really clean today. And again, just like you referenced at the front, use today as a tune-up and be very focused, be very intent on playing a clean game and looking good, and using this as a final tune-up before heading up to Ann Arbor next week.
Can't wait to see how these Buckeyes look. You got any final thoughts here?
Any final thoughts for me? Get out healthy. Get out healthy. That's got to be priority number 1. I'd love to see the offense come out, score right away, look clean on the first drive, get the ball back after 3 and out, score again, and Marvin Harrison just done end the day. Travion as well. just get the guys out, get out healthy. And yeah, it's crazy. You said it, and then I knew it, but it was weird to hear you say it's senior day and it's the last home game of the season, which is insane to think and crazy to say. But for a mid-November afternoon, looking like you're going to need your sunscreen this afternoon because it looks beautiful and just a great day for some Buckeye football.
Yeah, it's actually warm in the sun. It's a little cool in the shade. The temperature right now is about 50 degrees, and we're expecting this all afternoon, which is a nice change because 24 hours ago it was absolutely gross. Basically rained from start to finish all day, but it is going to be just like this all afternoon. So looking forward to that. All right, we got plenty of coverage coming for you on BuckeyesNow.com. We certainly hope you'll join us there throughout the game. We'll have live updates posted if anything breaks, and plenty of post-game content coming your way too. We will certainly jump on a live video stream just like this after we have the press conferences and give you our reaction to what we hope will be a fun day for the Ohio State Buckeyes. I know everybody's looking forward to 7 days from now. So are we. So is everybody across Buckeye Nation. But focus on today. Enjoy the moment. Ohio State's going to try to send some seniors out on the right note and try to take some momentum going up to Ann Arbor next week. For Anthony Moeglin, I'm Brendan Gulick. Enjoy the day, everybody. Have fun if you're at the shoe or if you're watching from home. I know the game's on Big Ten Network kicking off at 4 o'clock. We look forward to you joining us post-game here when we react on Buckeye Breakdown.